How are you guys doing today? Today, I want to talk about a debt settlement company, what it is, how it works, some of the pros and cons of it, and then my take as a debt collector. Now, if you guys haven't seen my other two videos, obviously at the end of this video, it will show the other two videos dealing with debt consolidation as well as debt management. And now today we're going to talk about debt settlement. So stay tuned. My name is Jay, and welcome to Ask a Debt Collector. I've been in the debt collection industry for over 15 years. During that time span, I've done it all, from skip tracing to collecting to working in the legal department and management. Lastly, I've owned 2 debt collection agencies over the course of that time. During the last 8 years, I've been the go-to guy for friends and family for questions about debt. Now, I want to be the go-to guy for you. If you have any questions, put them down in the comment. I promise you I'll answer those questions. Let's go. Okay, so debt settlement. What debt settlement companies do, basically, it's a service offered by a third-party company to try and reduce your debt by negotiating settlements with your creditors and debt collectors. So basically, you have a bunch of debt. You need to get rid of the debt, whether it's with the original creditor or with collection agencies. What the debt settlement company does is they come in as a third party and gather some information from you, and then they contact your creditors and debt collectors with regards to trying to get a discount on your debt. So how it works is debt settlement companies may also be known as debt relief or debt adjusting companies. So if you hear those types of names out there, it's pretty much debt settlement. These companies generally offer to contact your creditors, like I said before, on your behalf so that they can negotiate a better payment plan or settlement to reduce your debt. They typically charge a fee and often a percentage of the amount you've saved on the debt settled. Okay, so let's give some of the pros of dealing with a debt settlement company. It'll lower your debt. Obviously, if you owe 10 grand and you can get away with paying 7 grand, that's 3 grand saved out of your pocket versus you obviously paying the balance in full on your account. It helps you avoid bankruptcy. Obviously, when you're contacting your creditors and the debt, obviously, if you got someone negotiating on your behalf, then it'll, stop a bankruptcy from happening. A Chapter 7 bankruptcy typically is what would happen in that case. Whereas discharge, you don't have to pay none of this stuff. I talk about a bankruptcy at Chapter 7 if you have to get there, but I advise to try and avoid any bankruptcies just because they stay on your credit for up to 10 years. And, that's a big thing. So if you can, obviously hire a debt settlement company as an option, that's something that's very viable to do it. Lastly, it gets creditors off your back. So as a debt collector, obviously, if I contacted you and you had a debt settlement company, then automatically when we contact the consumer and they say, hey, I'm dealing with this company, they'll give the number to that person and bam, no more calls. We're not going to call any more relatives. We're not going to call you anymore. We're going to deal directly with that debt settlement company with regards to your debt. Now, let's talk about some of the cons, okay? Your creditor may not be able to negotiate your account. The reality is, just because you have a debt settlement company, if they contact a creditor or debt collection agency, myself, I've dealt with it many of times where they'll contact us up, they'll owe $3,000, they'll say, hey, all this person has is $700 to close the account out or $1,000 to close the account out, and we can refuse it. Not only can we refuse that actual arrangement that they're trying to give us, at that point in time, we can actually go after you to sue you. So, keep that in thing. You can end up with more debt, right? So if you hire them, just because you're hiring them, a lot of times consumers just think that that's the end be all. But the reality is it isn't. You can end up with more debt in general. Depending on what type of company that you hire, they could have fees with regards to charging you, with regards to having your account. And, they can negotiate something with regards on your behalf. You don't know exactly what it is as a consumer, what they negotiated. They could have negotiated like $50 a month and the interest rate can still happen. So as soon as you default on payments, that can hurt you. And fees can and will apply even if the debt is not settled. So once again, like the other two companies that I spoke on, these companies have to make money. That's just the reality of it. So they're not going to just take your stuff on pro bono. I mean, there are companies out there that'll say, hey, we won't charge you unless we actually settle your accounts. Those are the companies I would prefer, or I would say for you guys to use. But nevertheless, you're going to be charged fees. So if it doesn't work out, you're still going to be charged those fees. If they get a creditor or if they get a debt collection agency that's not willing to negotiate what it is that you're stating you can do. My thoughts as a collector, I sort of kind of talked about it a little bit. The reality is, as a collector, depending on what it is that they're trying to do, will help. So like I stated before, I have a video that talks about the best time to call and negotiate your debt. Now, if a debt settlement company contacts me at the beginning of the month and my numbers are low and I'm needing a lot of money, depending on the circumstance and the situation, because it could be early in the month, I haven't had a couple payments, and sometimes just getting something will get me driving. But a lot of times with debt settlement companies, if I was to put a percentage on how many that I've actually worked with, I would say that actually did it because their job is to get the balance as low as possible to save money on the client, but then on the flip end, they charge the client a fee with regards to that. But on a percentage wise, I would say it's pretty low. Probably 30% of the debt settlement companies that contacted me particularly, I actually negotiated something with them. And a lot of it dealt with timing, it dealt with who that person was. So you want to pick a great debt settlement company to do so, and how that they reacted. But like I've stated before, I actually have a video telling you yourself, why pay a company, a third-party company, to actually settle your accounts when the reality is you can do it yourself, right? Yeah, it may be a little bit intimidated and so forth. For myself, it's easy. Obviously, I've been in the business for so long, but you can do it on your own. You can save yourself the fees. And let's say, for instance, you had a $10,000 account. A debt settlement company saved you $5,000 off that account. And they told you, hey, so we settled this account out for $5,000. Typically, there's a fee. They may charge you anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 for saving you that amount on there when you could have possibly called and did it yourself. A lot of times when you call a debt collection agency or even a creditor, letting them know your situation, letting them know what it is that you have, what you have going on, you can settle those accounts out at 50 cents on the dollar a lot of times, and sometimes even lower depending on your circumstance and your situation. So do I recommend it? Maybe. It depends on your situation. You know, if you're a busy person, you don't have time to actually go through your accounts and you want someone to do it as a third party and you have the money to fork up a little extra money to have someone do it on your behalf, maybe. But the reality is I would recommend most of you guys just do it on your own. And if you need any help with that, I have some videos briefly explaining that, as well as if you need help with debt settlement in general, you're looking for somebody who does that. Obviously, I've been a collector, so I definitely know how to negotiate with debt collectors to get and creditors to get your balance down lower to save you some money and get that done. Email me at askadebtcollector@barrettrecovery.com. In the subject matter, just put help, debt settlement with help, and I'll be able to help you with that. Now, if you have any questions about credit or debt, put them down in the comment section. I promise I'll answer those questions. And as I always say, you be great.